and Andrew, I think, was pointing out, don't women say shit like this all the fucking time?
Yeah,
men are trash. Yes. We don't need men. I'd rather, wait, question. Would you rather be alone, or would you rather come across in the forest a man or a bear? Which do you pick?
A bear.
And yes, so you're a misandrist. Mm-hmm. You're a man hater.
I'm not a man hater.
Let me tell you why. Because let me ask. You think your risk assessment here is that you're going to get essayed by men to the point where you would rather be in the forest with a wild bear than with a man. Is that correct? Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. So what percentage of men do you think in this situation would choose to victimize you? What percentage of men?
What do you mean?
Okay, in this hypothetical, you choose bear over man, right? Mm-hmm. So your risk assessment would seem to indicate that you think a high percentage of men.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So what percentage of men would victimize you?
I'm not sure I can come up with the percentage because
Take a guess.
Well, let me just say first, my reason for coming to this conclusion of a bear is because when I first think of, I guess risk assessment, I would rather take my chances with...
Well, I can I actually have an experiment for this.
Wait, but let me just...
No,
okay.
I want to hear this.
Hold on. No. Let's finish this really quick. Okay. What percentage of men do you think would victimize you in this scenario?
I know the answer.
Oh, there's like a statistical answer?
No, it's 50-50 always.
Oh my. Why don't we let her answer?
40%.
Okay, so knowing that the adult male the male population of the United States is something like, I think, 160 million, 40%, what would that be? That would be not quite 80 million men. Let's say it's 70.
Me change that.
So you think 70 million? You think 70 million men in the United States would choose to?
No, because I changed it to 30%.
I still find this incredibly objectionable. Incredibly objectionable, because there's currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 men. Sorry, my math's fucking terrible. In the studio. Okay, so 2 of the men in the studio are rapists. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying they're rapists. I'm just saying I'd probably rather be in a forest with a bear than men that I don't know or trust, because I could end up getting... I mean, it's even like a conversation. Sometimes I just don't
Have you ever had a one-night stand?
Yes.
How many one-night stands have you had?
1.
Interesting how that works.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you were alone with a man.
Yeah, I'm not saying
I'm
not saying I'm okay with that, or that it was a great decision. I regret it.
Right, but it was consensual, right? Okay. It's just interesting. Women will hook up with the dudes, meet up with them, no issues. You pass by hundreds, if not thousands of men all the time. None of them do anything to you. But you have this bias against men. That's interesting.
I don't have a bias against men.
Hold on. How is it not a bias where you think 30% of men, and you originally said 40, you think 30% of men are inclined to violence or sexual assault towards you?
Yeah.
Living underscore donated $200.
That's a bias.
Big old Brian, oh it'll work Andrew, proceeds to be the worst moment in technology history. Someone spike his drink with Ozempic. Andrew just wins debates, BC he's hot.
Okay,
I dispense Ozempic if you need it.
They're laughing back there.
Oh, there's another one coming through. We have another one coming through. Living, thank you, man, for the TTS. Appreciate
thanks,
it.
Living.
We'll come back to it here in just a sec, but Noah has one coming in. Thank you, Noah. Appreciate it.
Noah donated $200. Women says that she hates men. You go girl. Slay queen. Man says he hates women, and everyone loses their minds.
Can I
Seems like Schrodinger's feminist to me.
We should love each other.
Hold on.
I would like to separate the bear versus man argument with my dislike towards his comment, because I'm not coming from a place of all men, I hate all men, because that's not how I feel. I think a lot of men are great and awesome, but I also think that that's a totally different comment to make, to say...
Wait, you think all men are inclined to violence, murder, and SA?
No. Not all men.
Okay,
I just think more men than more...
40%
more
of
men than women. I would take my chances more.
It's enough, but
what?
It's
more
enough.
Men than a bear.
Hold on. But even though the percentage chance of you being with a man who wouldn't do these things is greater, it's enough men
Yeah.
that you would rather take a path that lands you in a forest not with a man. Mike Davis said, I've tried to see the good side of women, but I'm done with these disgusting creatures, right? And he says, keep females away from me. Isn't this just sort of essentially the mirror of what you're saying by picking the bear?
No,
It
I'm not saying
absolutely
fuck all
is.
men.
Yes.
It absolutely is.
Yes.
All right, then sure, he's valid in his comment. Great. I think what he said was awesome, and I do think.
Why
women are
aren't any of the
disgusting
ladies
evil creatures.
disavowing your statement?
What do you mean?
You think 30% of men would be inclined to violence towards you?
I don't know the statistics. That's just how I feel.
That's
I feel
how,
like a lot
yes,
of-
that's how you feel.
Okay.
It's
so
still an objectionable thing.
How many men are in prison because of SA?
A lot.
How many
what?
though?
A lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The better question
what percentage
is why
of men
she's
are in
here.
jail?
I think-
Oh, it's a very low percentage.
My thing is, I think more men are worse than more women, but that does not make the
Whoa,
majority of men.
that's a
but
sexist
that does
statement.
not make.
Oh, wait,
Not worse. I
men-
think less. You're taking.
You're saying there's more worse men than there
There's
are worse women.
More men have done SA, have done murders, have done rapes compared to women.
Right.
It's statistically proven. I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but that does not mean that I think that the majority of men are evil,
isn't this an
disgusting
apex?
creatures.
This is an apex fallacy. First of all, criminality is a very, very small proportion of the
Of the people that
population.
actually do wrong,
so to
right.
say that I'm going to have this sort of blanket assessment of men due to a small proportion of some men's criminality, you're attributing to the group the actions of a small fraction.
This would be the same argument towards racism. So that
Can
would
you
be the same
elaborate?
argument you would make in
Can you
reverse for
elaborate?
racism. Yeah, sure. So if you were to say, okay, a small percentage of the population, which happens to be this race, conducts X amount of crimes, you would immediately look for ulterior reasons why they were criminals absent the race, right?
Okay. I
But
see.
how come you won't do that when it comes to men, right?
Okay. No, that's a good argument.
Yeah, wouldn't that be this? It's the same thing in reverse,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it?
I think on that one too. You're coming back with some good arguments, I'll say.
It's so sad that you feel scared by such a percent of the men. This is so sad. And actually, the better question is like why the young woman feels like that? Why she scares of the 30% of the men?
Because they've been indoctrinated and brainwashed.
Sure.
Or maybe
Because
it's
we've
happened
been-
before in the
Yeah,
past.
maybe it's happened.
Like personally,
To you?
like
yes.
yeah, family.
This is a good question. You
Yeah,
know,
but if-
guys.
if
we
you
don't
had-
want to be scared of you.
Even
we
if
don't
it,
want.
your own
even
parents.
if it were to have happened to everybody here
We
at the
want to
table.
love each other.
Hang on. Even if it were to have happened to everybody at this table, that every woman here was in some way assaulted by a man in a sexual way, and none of the men here were ever sexually assaulted by a woman in any way, that would mean nothing.
How?
That we would
That's
not
just
be.
coincidence.
We
that,
would not be able to.
Oh.
How would you ever extrapolate that into anything
So it's
from
just
this
coincidence
setting?
that if all the women here were SA'd, that they were just happened to be here at the same time, and all of the
anecdotal.
men that hadn't were here as well.
Well, I mean, okay.
Because
Well, let's
we are
let's
hot.
think about it for a second, right? There's more women here than there are men, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is that? Is there a reason for it?
Because you want to argue with us,
Well,
so that men in the
whatever,
comments can
well,
see we're disgusting.
whatever the reason is, right? There's definitely reasons behind why that is the case, right?
So you're saying, if all of us were SA'd, we're
Like you wouldn't
here
just say you're
because-
all here coincidentally, and I wouldn't just say all the men are here coincidentally.
So
like
we're
there
here
was
because we're
mechanisms.
delusional is
well,
what you're
there's
saying.
no. I'm saying there's mechanisms which moved us all into place, right?
But what does that have
And
to
so
do
the
with
question is like even if all of this had happened, right? It doesn't give us a tell as to the mechanism for why it happened, right? Could be with this particular sample size, for instance, that because you're all around the same age group, you're more prone and in a propensity to be in situations where such a thing does happen. Whereas we could get the same exact group of women from a different demographic.
Yeah, he speaks
then they
about
have,
our job.
and they have absolutely none of those things, right? So you can't really just kind of say, well, even if it had happened to everybody here, that we could extrapolate that out to mean something meaningful.
It's because we are beautiful and because we are whores. Yeah, that's
No, I'm not.
probably.
I'm not. I'm not.
I mean,
aware.
like,
But something you're
Poor
not talking
attitude.
about is that men are essayed by women too, and there's a very high percentage of that.
Yes, there is.
So like when we're
far more than
generalizing,
is ever talked about. Yeah.
like if we're generalizing each gender and just saying, basically you guys are saying women have it worse. Like that is what I'm hearing. And yeah, women have it bad, but so do men. And men are more likely to, you know, because that things aren't spoken about, and it is so highly, it happens so much with men, and it's just not spoken about. And it's just passed over like it's nothing.
Well, that's certainly a fair point. But did you get an answer on this, or?
Well, no, not really. I was just saying, so, but this just from my brain, right, is like, if you say, well, could this all just be coincidence that all of us here, yeah, it could, right? Because there's going to be mechanisms which drive things. And so that's why when we do sample sizes, you pull them from different demographics, different backgrounds, different, you know what I mean? That way you can draw commonalities so that you can extract data correctly. Like just, a few women sitting at a table who say, this is my experience, even if all the experiences map up, it doesn't actually tell us anything.
I do want to ask a question.
How could it? You could agree that I could set out that even if this bad thing had happened to every single woman here, that we could take a completely different, even random sample size from the street and put the same exact women here, and it's more than possible that nothing ever happened to any of them.
I wouldn't say
Yeah,
it's
of
more than
course.
possible.
Yeah, it's not?
I
Yes,
wouldn't
it's
say it's more
possible.
than possible.
Why?
I mean, I don't know. It's just,
Why is it not more? Why? I'm sorry. What in the world would make that not possible?
Can I get
possible.
my phone to do a fact check? Because I've seen somewhere a statistic that says like it's over half of women that have been essayed or whatever. By
Even if that's true, let's say it was 90%. You could still draw randomly from the street, get a same
Right.
9 sample, and still not one of those women had ever been essayed.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So we can't. So that's why I'm saying you can't draw like kind of those conclusions when you say, "Is that just a coincidence?" Well, yeah, it could be. It could literally just be a coincidence, of course.
Okay.
You can have fears
I
from
don't know.
personal
Wait.
experience. She wasn't arguing that.
I do
No,
think,
she was. She said, "Is that just a coincidence?"
I don't
Is that
think.
is that just a? What does that mean? What is that just a
So
coincidence?
you're nitpicking on little words.
No, it's not a nitpick.
Well,
Yes.
How is it a nitpick?
She just said like that, and you just catch it so.
Yeah, you catch that one thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
that, that
yeah.
bastard!
Yeah.
Like,
There's
do you,
much
hold
more
on, hang on. Do you
interesting,
realize
and
that
you catch
people's
this.
thought patterns, the way that they think, and the way that they discuss things,
Yeah.
they hinge on pillars, and pillars are usually assumptions, right? They hinge on assumptions. So yes, I lock in on the hinge, the pillar that holds the idea
Wait,
up.
wait. I'm sorry.
you?
I have to interrupt this. I don't like to let certain things just slide. What was the stat that you just quoted?
Well, I asked if I could pull it up. I don't have that
But
off the top of my head.
you said you think it's over 50% of women.
You
I think,
can't-
I, think I know
been-
the stat she's referring to. It's like at colleges they say over 50% of women
Well,
have
no,
been
while
sexually
we have
assaulted.
her-
But then when you look into it, it's like
Why don't you tell us what you heard?
I told you I don't have it off the top of my head. I'd have to
What
look
do
it
you-
up. But it's
what do you
something
think
about
it
like
is?
half or more than half of women
Have been what?
essayed or raped or
What? So when you say essay, what does that include?
anything unconsensual that is where they've been touched without that.
So if a man were to tap-
What do you mean? What is that?
If a man were to tap a woman on the shoulder, is that essay?
No.
It's
Not
unconsensual.
sexual.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Well,
Yeah, like
yeah, about
there's a
sexual
difference.
touching.
I have a question.
Sexual touching without consent,
Yes.
and much of that can be perception.
it could be harassment. it
Well,
could be
hang on, but much of that could be perception. So, like, let me give you an example. If a guy's sitting at a party, he's drinking, a woman walks over and just like randomly starts rubbing his shoulders, right? I've seen this many times. Nobody says shit, right? However, that's definitely sexual touching. He definitely hasn't consented to it, it's just nobody gives a shit. Let's switch it. Woman sitting at a party, right, doesn't know the guy, he walks over and just starts rubbing her shoulders. Do you think that would become problematic?
I think it's odd, but I personally, if some guy did that to me, I'd just be like, what? Like, I don't know. To me, that wouldn't
But
be
if
like
a woman,
scarring.
sure. But if a woman said, "Okay, wait a second, that was sexual touching without my consent," would you agree with her?
I wouldn't agree with her, but I wouldn't look her in the face and say,
You wouldn't say no, right?
I
You wouldn't
would.
say no. And so that's the distinction that's being talked about here is that, wait a second. The reason we clarify these terms and we want them specific is because it's very clear to me that when women in an unwanted way touch men, just nobody gives a shit. They just don't care.
no, I
And the
agree with you. I
assumption-
think
yeah,
that
yeah.
I'm not trying to minimize the amount of essay that men experience. Like,
Yeah, right. But this way the classification matters because I'm not sure I would consider that SA. right?
No, I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
Just saying, I'm not trying to minimize.
But you realize
what
how
men feel
many
with that.
of these kind of like tortured studies and stats that you would look at where the assumption of SA is that they would consider those categories, even though they maybe don't belong there.
Even worse, like wolf whistling is in some
And if
cases
I
counted
will
as well.
touch you now when we will go to smoke cigarettes, this is called as S or
You realize, so when you went back there to smoke a cigarette, did you note that I took a wide path, went all the way around you, never went anywhere near you, and came in just to avoid such a thing from even happening?
No, I didn't say.
I know, you don't have to worry about it. That's the difference.
I love it. You watch your back, bro.
You don't have
I'm gonna go
to.
smoke a cigarette.
You don't have to worry about it.
No,
But
that was just
guess what? But guess what?
We will
We
call
d-
it as
But
a
we,
sexual assessment. It's
But we
called or
do.
no?
We do. We do have to worry about it.
Will it's called as sexual assessment or no?
I mean, who knows? But because
How
the
strong they will
because the
touch?
criteria is so gray, it's not really known to me or clear to me what could be considered assault or
Living underscore donated $200. Holy crap. I've technically been essayed several times in my life
you
by
probably
women.
have.
I don't report any of them. Society doesn't notice casual women essaying. Also, bear versus black man, or black man versus white man.
I'm more scared of a white man.
I love white man.
Why would you be more scared of a white
So
man?
now, not only are you a sexist, but you're also racist.
Yeah. Just instant by category. But you see what I mean when I say, like, it's not, when you ask the question to me, it's not altogether clear without very specific criteria as to what that could even mean, because I think that, yes, I could be brought up on charges for potentially brushing up against a woman, even without having any untoward anything towards her. I just happened to not think twice. I was just walking by, brushed up against her. Do I think it's within the realm of possibility? I do. And that's the part men always have to think about. That seems like women, as they think that men are hyper predatory, right? Now the distance has the gap has grown and grown and grown.
You know why
because-
it's growing?
Yeah, it's not your turn. Hang on. So this is why, right? Now that we have to think about that all the time, you see this distance and this gap widen. And it's specifically because if you look at it like the example I gave with the shoulder rubbing, right? You're like, yeah, no, that's really not SA. But if she said it was, you're like, I wouldn't tell her no. And so that's why it's not altogether clear to me. It really
Also,
isn't.
we had a girl on the show. I think you were on this panel, Andrew.
Well, I had a girl on a show take off her, clothes
Well,
and
no.
like to assault me with her. Yeah. So
Well,
whatever.
That's not what I was going to talk about. But there was a girl who was. We were having this conversation, and she said there was a study done here at the local university, and that it included catcalling that fell within the purview of SA.
Yeah, I was on that show, I think.
Or were you on that show?
Yeah.
So I find these studies that they do, it includes all sorts of things, all the way from some, benign or, mild harassment, all the way to like forcible violent rape. And I find like encapsulating all of those things into this sort of nebulous term SA is not particularly helpful.
it inflates the numbers.
I agree. I'm not
On
disagreeing with you.
purpose.
Right, but like when we're having this conversation, and it's I suppose some sort of framing where you're saying like the listener is going to interpret over 50% of women are at like full blown forcibly in the they're walking down a staircase somewhere, some random man just starts beating them up and like rapes them.
Well, that's not what I said.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious, and I don't know if this is a bit inappropriate of a question, but I think you were saying like, I bet every single woman here at this table has been SA'd.
I didn't say that.
You said you were though, right?
Right.
Okay. So, I'm just curious. I'm not going to ask the details. Who here has been SA'd? Okay. Wait, sorry. Just show of hands again. Oh, it's you're wondering.
How
oh my
many
God.
times?
This is hold on. No, that's crazy.
Well, no.
bro.
Here's the thing: you can't use that as an argument because a lot of women feel not validated in what it is.
That's right. They feel.
Wait, I do have a
What do you mean?
follow-up
Oh, they
question.
feel
here.
it's not
I do
proven. If
have
you
a follow-up
feel-
question.
Some of them
Hold
feel
on.
not-
Allow me to
She
do the
said
follow-up
some of
question
them
first.
feel
Stop. Okay. Those of you who raised your hand, did you go to the police?
No, couldn't.
No. Did you? Yes, you went to the police.
Does that mean it didn't
Wait,
happen?
hold on.
Just
Is this
your
the guy
argument?
who the choking thing?
There's a separate incident.
There was okay. And then did you go to the police? Okay. That was it. That was my question.
And so you're saying because we didn't go to the police?
No, I'm not saying anything. I don't know what happened
What
or
is
what
that
didn't.
proving?
Well,
I
so
just-
A lot
so
of men don't go to
And
the
did you go to the
yeah.
police?
So I'll tell you the term, right? No, they would laugh me out of the building. Right? They'd laugh me out of the building, even though it was clear on video.
So they
They
don't
would
take
laugh
men
me.
seriously
They would laugh
about
me out of the building. It's not even an option for us. But the thing is like,
Right.
so to kind of dive into this, all Brian's trying to say is like, if you have this kind of hyperinflated number, which would include things like catcalling or things which clearly are not
should be
sexual
separate.
assault, right? These should be in kind of totally different categories, and the reason they're put into the same is to inflate the number, thus making men look far more predatory than they actually are. So if that is the case, then, and you can even see like kind of with your rah-rah feminism that pops out really
I
quick.
wouldn't say I have a rah-rah.
Well, you
feminism.
did, and I'll explain where I saw it. I'll explain the exact moment that I saw the rah-rah feminism. It was when when I said, yes, I feel, and you're going to invalidate? Well, yeah, and here's why. You have to invalidate feelings for proof and evidence with clear criteria, because otherwise, how do we get the actual number, right? You could I couldn't just say, do you feel like you were S8?
Right. I mean, then in court it wouldn't hold up. But
Well,
I
it's
don't
not
think
just
that means
in
you
court,
should look someone in the face and say, well, then it didn't happen.
But it can't really hold up external to that either, because you're a number who would never make it into the stats absent court, right? Because you never went to court. So then, but you would be counted in this number. So how would we prove that? How could we falsify that other than
You can't.
You
You
can't,
can't.
right? You can't. So this is why when people say believe all women, it sounds to me like fucking
I don't think
absurd.
that's true. No, I disagree. with
Yeah, it
that
sounds to me
statement.
like
You can't.
total
Right.
absurdity, because it's like by your kind of your own metrics, you invalidate the very thing that we're supposed to believe.
Well, then do you not feel that there's a discrepancy between in the categories of what SA is, you even said like it's shoulder rubbing. So do you not think there's like a kind of an equal number of the people who are counted in that statistic who weren't actually, or it wasn't as intense, or something that we wouldn't consider SA compared
Yeah.
to the number of women who aren't actually counted in that statistic?
Yeah, so this is a really difficult question because we're talking about soft sciences. Science is only as effective as you
Right.
have controls.
Right.
And that's why hard science works really well, and why the replication crisis affects soft sciences so badly. And so without great controls, which means great criteria, we're just speculating ultimately, right? And so that's why when I hear kind of these tortured numbers thrown out of, most men could be predatory, or most women have experienced SA and this and that, it seems to me like that's not very clear, and that the controls are not very good, and that we're mostly going off of self-reports, not
Right.
court reports.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm just not willing to kind of concede that that's true, right?
Okay.
And I mean, you seem reasonable. I don't even think you would, right? If you find out that is indeed the case, wouldn't you kind of have to readjust your positioning and thought process around it?
Can you or specify, restate your question?
Yeah, so if you found out that, wait, there's really soft controls here and we can't really know, we don't really know the answer
okay,
to these
then,
questions.
Maybe then I would reconsider. Yeah.
That's all I'm asking you to
Okay,
do.
yeah.
It's just reconsider the opposite possibility that there's perhaps been a lot of brainwashing designed specifically to be divisive, to make men look.
Why do you think they would want to make men look worse?
Well, because I think that a lot of these control studies are done by very progressive and very feminist operated universities. And I think that they're not trying to solve for a real hard scientific answer, but rather they're trying to only get at the heart of kind of the ideology that they're trying to promote. And so they'll make the data fit the ideology rather than moving the ideology around the data.
Okay.